The air was thick with tension as the world watched in shock. A broadcast echoed through every major news channel, its message clear and terrifying. "We, the Zoraxians, declare war on Earth." The voice was cold and commanding, dripping with the arrogance of an advanced alien race. Their fleet, vast and powerful, loomed in the far reaches of space. Earth's military scrambled to prepare for an invasion they were not equipped to fight. The Zoraxians were known across the galaxy for their superior technology and unchallenged power. And now, they had their eyes set on Earth. As the broadcast continued, the message became even more chilling. "We will send one of our mightiest warriors to prove our strength. No human can withstand the might of the Zoraxians." The screen switched to show the towering figure of Korak, the Zoraxian champion. His armor gleamed with alien technology, and his eyes burned with the promise of destruction. He stepped forward on the alien ship's platform, which hovered in the skies above Earth, casting an ominous shadow over entire cities. His presence was overwhelming, the ground beneath his feet trembling with every step. It was clear. Humanity was about to face a force like no other. Across the globe, panic spread. Military leaders gathered in emergency meetings, scrambling to formulate a defense. Earth was not ready for this. They had no idea what to expect. The Zoraxians had never been defeated, their technology far more advanced than anything Earth could even begin to imagine. The human race was about to face a test of survival. For the first time, Earth was forced to confront a reality. They were the underdogs in this fight. But amidst the chaos, one human stepped forward, cutting through the noise of panic and fear. Captain Ethan Drake, a soldier known for his unwavering courage, stood tall in the face of the impending doom. His face was hard, eyes steely with resolve, but inside, his heart raced with the weight of the world on his shoulders. He knew that this was not just a fight for survival, it was the fight for humanity's future. He couldn't back down now, no matter the odds. "I will face him," Ethan declared to his comrades, his voice steady, though his mind swirled with uncertainty. The world was holding its breath as Ethan's words echoed across the globe. The thought of one lone soldier taking on the most powerful warrior of the Zoraxians seemed insane to many, but Ethan was ready to prove that humanity had more to offer than just technology. They had heart, determination, and a willingness to fight for what was theirs. If he didn't face this challenge, humanity would be doomed before the battle even began. His commanding officer, General Parker, stood beside him, shaking his head in disbelief. "You don't have to do this, Captain," he said, his voice tinged with concern. "We have the entire military at our disposal. We can fight this with everything we've got. You don't have to face him alone." But Ethan's resolve only grew stronger. "If we don't stand up now, we'll never have a chance to fight back," he replied. "I won't let Earth fall because we were too scared to fight." Ethan's words, though simple, ignited a spark of hope within the hearts of those who had lost all faith. He wasn't just fighting for his own life, he was fighting for everyone. The humans were not helpless, and they would not go down without a fight. The air was electric with tension as Ethan suited up for the mission. His team of soldiers would support him, but in this moment, it was clear that Ethan was their symbol of hope. Meanwhile, the alien ship above Earth began to descend. Its sleek form shimmered with cloaking technology, making it appear almost invisible in the sky. It moved silently, hovering over major cities. For a moment, it was as if time stood still. No one could move, no one could speak. The shadow of the ship grew larger as it approached the designated battleground, a vast, open field near a city that had already begun evacuating. Korak's presence was enough to make even the bravest soldiers falter. The ground shook as his massive form stepped down from the ship, his footsteps thundering like the sound of a war drum. His armor was like nothing Earth had ever seen. It was a seamless design of dark metal and glowing energy, pulsing with the power of 1,000 machines. His helmet, a terrifying faceplate, bore the insignia of the Zoraxian Empire, marking him as a warrior of supreme rank. He raised his hand, signaling the start of the battle, his voice booming across the field. "Prepare yourselves, humans. I will prove to you the true might of the Zoraxians." As Korak's challenge echoed across the world, Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. He stepped forward, his boots pressing into the dirt as he faced the alien warrior. The humans on the battlefield watched with bated breath, wondering how one soldier could stand up to a creature so far beyond their power. Yet in Ethan's eyes burned the same fire that had kept humanity fighting for centuries. He was ready, though his heart pounded in his chest. With a steady breath, Ethan turned toward his team. "Stay back," he ordered, his voice firm but calm. "This is my fight." His hands gripped his weapon tightly as he prepared for the challenge of his life. The fate of Earth rested on his shoulders. If he failed, it would not only be the end of him, it would be the end of everything he knew and loved. But Ethan didn't flinch. The world watched as he took his first steps toward the alien warrior, ready to face the impossible. The moment the first energy blast fired, the battle began. The earth beneath them shook, and the sky above burned with the light of their confrontation. The clash of two vastly different beings, one representing the might of an ancient, unstoppable empire, and the other, the raw spirit of humanity, had begun. The world was about to witness a fight that no one could ever forget. The moment Captain Ethan Drake stepped onto the battlefield, the earth seemed to tremble beneath him. The air crackled with energy as the towering form of Korak, the Zoraxian warrior, approached. His alien armor shimmered, reflecting the sunlight in pulses of blue and green. A cloaking device around him flickered as it briefly made him vanish from sight, only to reappear in an instant, his presence overwhelming. Ethan's pulse raced as the first blast from Korak's plasma cannon shot through the air, narrowly missing him. The war had begun, and it was no longer just a test of strength, but a fight for humanity's survival. Korak didn't hesitate. He raised his plasma weapon, a sleek, high-tech gun capable of firing concentrated energy blasts. With one swift motion, he unleashed a barrage of energy that lit up the sky. The ground beneath Ethan's feet exploded, forcing him to roll to the side, narrowly avoiding the lethal blast. The Zoraxian's strength and technology were unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. His movements were fluid and fast, and his weaponry seemed to warp reality itself. Ethan gritted his teeth. His rifle, an advanced piece of human technology, fired back, but it was no match for the alien's superior power. Each blast from his weapon barely made a dent in Korak's armor. It was clear that the Zoraxian warrior was toying with him, enjoying the challenge. His armor seemed invulnerable, and the plasma blasts melted through the terrain, creating craters as deep as the ocean. Ethan's heart raced. His mind raced even faster, searching for a way out of this. He had to survive, not just for himself, but for everyone. Earth's fate depended on this battle. But Korak was relentless. He moved with terrifying speed, each of his actions a blur as he flanked Ethan's position. Ethan's military training kicked in. He quickly ducked behind a broken piece of debris, his breathing heavy, his mind working furiously. The alien was everywhere, his cloaking device making it impossible to predict where he would strike next. Ethan gripped his weapon tighter, frustration boiling inside him. His body was exhausted, but his will to fight never wavered. Every time Korak's energy blasts hit the ground near him, a shockwave of heat and force sent Ethan flying. But he quickly recovered, always finding a way to move and stay alive. He took a deep breath, searching the battlefield for something, anything, that could help. He wasn't just going to be a punching bag. Ethan's eyes locked onto a nearby cliffside, where jagged rocks protruded. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward it, knowing that if he could get the high ground, he might gain an advantage. As Korak moved in for another strike, Ethan climbed quickly, narrowly dodging another plasma blast. At the top of the cliff, he was momentarily safe, giving him the chance to regroup. From the higher ground, he could see Korak more clearly, and Ethan noticed something. The alien's armor, while seemingly impenetrable, had weak spots, joints where the metal plates didn't quite line up. These were the areas he had to target. With his heart pounding, Ethan raised his rifle, adjusting the settings to fire a concentrated shot. His breath was steady now. He knew this was his one shot, his only chance. Korak, realizing the shift in position, aimed his weapon again, but Ethan was quicker. He fired. The blast hit Korak's shoulder joint with a satisfying thud, sending a spray of sparks into the air. The Zoraxian staggered back, visibly shocked. For the first time, Ethan saw him falter. Korak looked down at the smoking hole in his armor, a mixture of confusion and anger flashing across his face. The moment was brief, but it was enough for Ethan to regain a sense of hope. On the ground below, Ethan's team watched the battle unfold with bated breath. They were far away, unable to join the fight, but their eyes were fixed on the lone figure of Ethan, fighting for them all. Bonner, Ethan's closest friend, stood among them, his face tight with worry, but also determination. "He's got this," Bonner whispered to himself, his eyes locked on Ethan. Bonner had fought alongside Ethan in countless battles before, but this was different. The stakes were higher, the enemy stronger, and yet, in Ethan, there was an unwavering spirit that none could break. As the fight raged on, the two combatants continued to clash, each one pushing the other to their limits. Korak's alien strength was far superior to anything a human could muster, but Ethan's tenacity and resourcefulness kept him in the game. The energy blasts from Korak's weapon continued to explode around him, turning the ground into a war zone. Yet Ethan kept moving, kept dodging, and kept fighting back. His body was sore, his breath shallow, but his spirit refused to break. With each blast, the distance between Ethan and defeat seemed to grow smaller. But just when it seemed like the fight was lost, when Korak was about to land the final blow, Ethan found a burst of strength within himself. He leaped from the cliffside and crashed into Korak's side, using his body weight and the element of surprise to knock the alien off balance. In that instant, Ethan's rifle found another weak spot in Korak's armor. He fired again, and this time, the blast went straight through the alien's chest plate, leaving the smoking hole behind. Both warriors staggered back, staring at each other in shock. For a moment, the battlefield was eerily silent. Ethan's chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath, his body aching from the onslaught. Korak, stunned by the unexpected blow, stood frozen, his eyes locked on the human who had dared to challenge him. The alien warrior took a step back, his mind processing the damage, his arrogance slowly fading. Ethan, though injured and exhausted, felt a wave of triumph. He had done it. He had wounded Korak. Against all odds, humanity had struck a blow that even the Zoraxians could not ignore. In the distance, Bonner and the rest of the team could hardly believe what they were seeing. The fight was far from over. But in that moment, hope sparked in their hearts. If Ethan could take on this alien, maybe, just maybe, humanity had a chance to win. The battle was just beginning, but it had already proven one thing. Humans were not to be underestimated. The air was thick with tension as the once confident Korak, now stunned and furious, disappeared into thin air. His cloaking device activated with a faint hum, and just like that, he was gone. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. The battle had shifted. What had once been a fight of strength and skill now became one of survival, where the hunter had turned into the hunted. The terrain around them, the ruined city littered with debris and scorched earth, now became Ethan's only ally. He couldn't afford to make a mistake. Everywhere he looked, there was nothing. No shimmer, no movement, just the desolate wasteland where once thriving cities stood. The sound of Korak's footsteps was drowned out by the constant echo of explosions in the distance. The Zoraxian was silent now, but Ethan knew better than to assume he was gone. He was still there, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Ethan's survival instincts kicked in. He wasn't about to let this invisible alien take him down. Ethan crouched low, keeping his eyes peeled for the slightest movement. He had to be smart. Guerrilla tactics were his only hope. With every step, he used the wreckage around him to stay hidden, moving quickly from one piece of cover to the next. His breathing was steady, but inside, his mind raced. He had faced enemies before, but nothing like this. Korak was faster, stronger, and now more dangerous than ever with his ability to vanish at will. Through the haze of smoke and dust, Ethan's eyes flicked back and forth, scanning every angle. The sound of a distant blast rang through the air, but Ethan remained calm. He'd learned to trust his senses in situations like this. The slightest shift in the air, a shimmer of light, anything could give Korak's position away. He waited, moving like a shadow, determined to find an opening. Then it happened. The faintest glimmer caught his eye, just a flicker in the air, barely noticeable. Korak was nearby. Before Ethan could react, the Zoraxian lunged from his hiding place. A blast of plasma shot past Ethan's ear, scorching the air as it narrowly missed. Ethan instinctively rolled to the side, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Korak's laughter echoed through the ruins, cold and mocking. The alien's voice, now distorted by his cloaking, made it sound as though he were everywhere at once. "You cannot hide forever, human," Korak's voice boomed, his words laced with arrogance. "You are already defeated." Ethan gritted his teeth, refusing to let Korak's taunts shake him. He had a job to do. His fingers tightened around his weapon, his mind sharp with focus. He was faster, more resourceful than the alien thought, and this fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Meanwhile, back with the rest of Ethan's team, Bonner kept his eyes glued to the battle, a knot of worry tightening in his chest. Bonner had known Ethan for years. They had fought side by side through countless skirmishes, always coming out on top. But this was different. There was something about Korak that made this fight feel like more than just a battle. It was personal. Suddenly, the ground shook as a blast ripped through the air. Bonner's heart skipped a beat. "Ethan," he shouted, his voice rising with urgency. But before he could react, a sharp explosion rang out, and the earth beneath him cracked. Bonner turned just in time to see a plasma blast hit him square in the chest. The force of the blast sent him flying backward, his body slamming into the rubble. Time seemed to slow. Ethan's heart skipped a beat as he saw Bonner's body crumple to the ground. For a moment, the battlefield faded away, leaving only the image of his fallen friend. Bonner, his closest ally, had been struck down. The anger, the frustration, the grief, it all boiled over within Ethan. In that instant, everything changed. The fight was no longer about just survival. It was about vengeance. Bonner's body lay motionless, blood staining the ground, and Ethan's rage ignited. Korak had crossed a line. The Zoraxian may have had the advantage in technology, in power, but he had no idea what he had just done. Ethan had fought for his life before, but this was something different. This was a fight for the soul of humanity, and no alien was going to take that away. Through the rage and the grief, a calmness settled over Ethan. His thoughts sharpened, and he could feel the full weight of his duty. He had to finish this, for Bonner, for Earth. Korak, still cloaked and confident, believed the human would crumble under the pressure. He laughed again, his voice a sinister echo across the battlefield. "Pathetic. You humans are weak. You will die just like all the others." But Korak had made a critical mistake. He underestimated Ethan's resolve. Ethan's breath was steady now, his mind clear despite the storm of emotions inside. He knew exactly what needed to be done. He couldn't let Korak's words get to him, couldn't let his anger cloud his focus. Korak might be a skilled warrior, but Ethan had something the alien could never understand. The unbreakable will of a human who fought not just for survival, but for something far greater. As the Zoraxian moved to take another shot, Ethan dropped to the ground, rolling and narrowly avoiding another blast. The fight had become more than just a battle of strength. It was a contest of minds. Ethan's survival skills and experience were his greatest assets now. Korak's arrogance would be his downfall. As Ethan disappeared behind the cover of some nearby rubble, Korak's confidence turned into confusion. He couldn't track the human anymore. The Zoraxian's cloaking device had its limits, and Ethan knew just how to exploit them. "You think you're clever, human," Korak snarled, his voice laced with venom. But Ethan didn't answer. He was focused, every sense heightened, ready to strike when the time was right. Korak was about to make his move, but he had no idea that the hunter was about to become the hunted. The battle had reached its breaking point. Ethan's mind was racing, each thought driven by the pain of losing Bonner and the sheer will to survive. He wasn't just fighting to win anymore. This was about honor, revenge, and the survival of humanity. Korak had underestimated him. Now it was time to show the alien what humans were truly capable of. Ethan paused behind the wreckage, his breath steady despite the chaos around him. He needed to think. The Zoraxian had the upper hand with his cloaking device, but Ethan had learned something crucial during the fight. Technology could be reversed. With his military training, he knew the ins and outs of combat, and he had spent countless hours studying alien tech after the initial invasion. The pieces were falling into place. From his belt, Ethan pulled a device that looked like nothing more than a small, compact cylinder. It was alien tech, yes, but it had been carefully dissected and reverse-engineered by Earth's best scientists. This was a cloaking device of his own, a piece of humanity's ingenuity at its finest. He quickly activated it, feeling the familiar hum of the technology. Now he was invisible to Korak. The tables had turned. Ethan's pulse quickened. He knew what he had to do next. He couldn't just wait. He had to strike, fast. His movements were calculated, deliberate, as he moved silently through the battlefield. The battlefield that once seemed so vast and empty now felt like his own personal arena. He was ready. He knew where Korak would be. He'd bait the alien into a trap. With a flick of his wrist, Ethan deployed a series of missiles hidden in his pack. The projectiles launched with a whistling sound that split the air. Korak's eyes, still trained on the surroundings, caught the glint of the missile's trajectory. But it was too late. The explosions erupted in a brilliant flash of light, blinding the alien temporarily. The ground shook as the shockwave rippled through the city. Ethan used the moment of confusion to make his move. The cloaking device masked his movements as he rushed forward, a blur of human determination. Korak, disoriented by the blast, struggled to find his footing. His armor, once pristine and untouchable, now had cracks running through it, the remnants of the blast marks smoking and smoldering in the air. Korak's fierce growls echoed through the ruined city, his pride wounded more than his body. Ethan didn't give the alien a chance to recover. He was on him in an instant, his combat training taking over. The human warrior was fast, using his agility and the environment to his advantage. He was smaller, but his skill and resourcefulness gave him the edge. As Korak swiped at him, Ethan dodged with ease, narrowly avoiding the alien's powerful strikes. The difference between them was clear. Korak might have strength, but Ethan had something Korak couldn't understand: human ingenuity and the will to survive at any cost. With a swift move, Ethan closed the distance, driving his knee into the cracked armor of Korak's chest. The alien staggered back, momentarily stunned by the unexpected force. The sound of metal scraping against metal filled the air as Ethan swiftly followed up with a barrage of punches, each blow landing with precision. The alien was reeling, disoriented, and with each strike, Ethan's determination grew stronger. "Is this what you wanted, Korak?" Ethan muttered under his breath, his voice low and filled with anger. "To destroy us. To make us weak." Korak snarled, his eyes blazing with fury, but his movements were slower now, weakened from the earlier blast. The once mighty alien warrior, so sure of his victory, was beginning to doubt himself. Ethan's speed and cunning had taken a toll. The human soldier's mind was racing. The grief and anger that had pushed him to this point now fueling his every action. Each punch, each kick was a blow for Bonner, for humanity, for everyone Korak had wronged. The thought of losing another comrade, another innocent, made Ethan fight harder. This wasn't just about winning. This was about justice. As the fight raged on, Ethan saw an opening. Korak was distracted, his energy fading. Ethan moved swiftly, and with a swift strike to the alien's cloaking device, he disabled it. The cloaking effect shimmered and faded away, leaving Korak exposed. The advantage had swung firmly into Ethan's favor. Ethan's eyes burned with determination. He wasn't going to let Korak escape, not after everything that had happened. He could hear Bonner's voice in his head, urging him on. He could see his friend's face, his sacrifice, driving Ethan to finish what he had started. This fight wasn't just about Earth's survival, it was personal. With a roar, Ethan pushed forward, every ounce of strength focused on one final strike. He moved quickly, striking Korak in the chest with a powerful blow that shattered the alien's cracked armor. The impact sent Korak stumbling back, his once imposing figure now looking small and vulnerable. The alien warrior, weakened and cornered, staggered to his feet, breathing heavily. "You, humans, are stronger than I thought," Korak said, his voice a mixture of surprise and anger. His pride had been shattered. For the first time in this battle, Korak realized that he might not be the predator he once thought he was. Ethan stood tall, battered but not broken. "We're stronger than you think," he said, his voice steady. "And we fight for something worth more than any empire or technology." With one final movement, Ethan thrust his weapon into Korak's side, the alien warrior's scream echoing as he staggered back, defeated. The fight was over. Korak, the mighty Zoraxian warrior, had been bested by the resilience and determination of one human soldier. Korak retreated, his pride shattered, and his cloaking device disabled, leaving behind only the ruins of the battlefield. Ethan stood tall, breathing heavily, but victorious. The alien threat had been neutralized, and humanity had once again proven that no matter how advanced the enemy, no matter the odds, humans would always fight back. And win. The war had taken its toll. Earth's cities were in ruins, the skies darkened with smoke, and the remnants of burning debris. Humanity had already faced so much, but nothing could prepare them for the storm that was coming. Korak, the Zoraxian warrior, was back, but this time he was not alone. His fury had only grown stronger, and now his reinforcements had arrived. A fleet of massive Zoraxian ships descended upon Earth's skies, casting long, menacing shadows over the cities below. Their weapons glowed with the power to annihilate humanity in a heartbeat. The stakes had never been higher. With each ship that descended, the air seemed to grow heavier, charged with the promise of death. The earth trembled under the weight of the incoming bombardment, as the Zoraxian fleet prepared to deliver the final blow. Korak, standing in the midst of it all, shouted to Earth's forces below, his voice booming with rage. "I've had enough of your pathetic resistance," he declared. "I'll end your species here and now. Come out, human. Face me in a final duel. Let's see if your kind can truly stand against the might of the Zoraxians." The challenge was clear. The fate of Earth hung in the balance. It was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the very future of humanity. Ethan, bloodied and bruised from the previous battles, knew what he had to do. His body was tired, his strength was draining, but there was no choice. Korak's return with the Zoraxian fleet meant that humanity had only one shot left. He had to stop the alien warrior before the entire planet was wiped out. As the Zoraxian ships began their orbital bombardment, launching missile after missile toward Earth's major cities, Ethan knew time was running out. Each explosion that rocked the ground seemed to echo the ticking of the clock, reminding him that humanity's survival depended on this final confrontation. The air was thick with smoke, and the sky lit up with explosions as the battle for Earth reached its most desperate moment. Without wasting a second, Ethan sprinted toward Korak, who was waiting for him at the center of the destruction. The ground beneath Ethan's boots crumbled as he pushed forward. The world around him chaos. But Ethan didn't flinch. His focus was locked on Korak, his resolve hardened. Every step he took brought him closer to ending this once and for all. Korak's grin was twisted with rage as the two warriors finally met in the midst of the wreckage. The alien's massive form loomed over Ethan, his armor glowing with the power of the Zoraxian technology. But Ethan wasn't afraid. The stakes were too high. The fate of humanity was in his hands, and he was willing to give everything to protect it. The battle erupted in an instant. Korak's powerful fists crashed into Ethan's defenses, sending the human soldier stumbling back. The ground beneath them cracked as energy blasts exploded from the alien's weapons. Ethan's armor rattled under the force of each strike, but he didn't back down. He was faster, more agile, and as he dodged Korak's blows, he struck back with everything he had. The clash between them was brutal, the sound of metal crashing against metal echoing in the air. Sparks flew from their broken armor as they fought with relentless fury. The action was fast-paced, a blur of energy and power. Korak unleashed a torrent of energy blasts from his gauntlets, each one narrowly missing Ethan, who used the environment to his advantage. Ethan darted through the smoke and wreckage, his movements calculated and precise. Every punch he landed, every strike he made, was a message. Humanity would not be crushed. But even with his superior skills, Ethan knew he was outmatched. Korak's strength was overwhelming. The alien was relentless, his blows sending shockwaves through the air. Ethan could feel his strength beginning to wane, his vision blurring from exhaustion. Yet through the haze of pain and fatigue, one thought remained in his mind. He could not fail, not when so much was at stake. In the midst of the chaos, Ethan heard the voice of his fallen friend, Bonner, ringing in his ears. The words Bonner had spoken just before his death. Never give up, pushed Ethan forward. It was a simple message, but one that carried the weight of everything he had fought for. It was a reminder of the lives that depended on him. He couldn't afford to lose. Not now. With renewed determination, Ethan surged forward, using the last of his strength to land a devastating blow to Korak's chest. The alien warrior stumbled back, shocked by the force of the attack. For a brief moment, time seemed to stand still. The two opponents stood facing each other, each one battered and bruised, their bodies bruised by the toll of the battle. Korak's eyes burned with rage, but even he couldn't deny it. The human soldier was no longer the underdog. Ethan had fought back with everything he had. The alien warrior, though wounded, gritted his teeth and raised his weapon for one final strike. He would end this once and for all. But Ethan wasn't finished. With a swift motion, he grabbed Korak's arm and twisted it, causing the alien to lose his grip on the weapon. In the heat of the moment, Ethan sought his chance. With all his might, he drove his knife into Korak's side. The alien let out a roar of pain as the blade sank deep into his armor. Korak staggered back, the light fading from his eyes as his strength left him. The mighty warrior who had once believed in the superiority of his race was now at the mercy of a single human soldier. With one final, desperate gasp, Korak fell to the ground, defeated. Ethan stood over the alien's lifeless body, bloodied and exhausted, but victorious. The Zoraxian fleet, having lost their leader, began to retreat. The final battle had been won. Humanity had survived. But as Ethan stood there, surrounded by the wreckage of the battlefield, he knew that the fight was far from over. There were still many challenges ahead. But for now, Earth had won. And that was all that mattered. The battle was over, but the war was far from forgotten. The world was forever changed. In the wake of Korak's defeat, Earth's forces, inspired by Ethan's unwavering courage and resilience, launched a counteroffensive against the remaining Zoraxian invaders. The human army, united like never before, surged forward, pushing back the alien forces that had once seemed invincible. The Zoraxians, now leaderless and demoralized, scrambled to regroup, but it was too late. The tide of the battle had turned, and Earth's forces would not allow the invaders to have any more victories. With each victory, Earth's cities began to come back to life. What had been burning ruins mere days ago now saw the first signs of hope. People rebuilt their homes, their lives, and their world. There was still much work to do, and the scars of war would never fully heal, but humanity's resolve was stronger than ever. The spirit of the human race had been tested like never before, and it had emerged victorious. As Earth celebrated its hard-won peace, Ethan found himself standing alone on the edge of a battlefield. The fireworks that illuminated the night sky were a testament to the triumph of humanity, but they did little to ease the weight on Ethan's heart. He knelt beside the grave of his closest friend, Bonner, his hand resting on the cold stone marker that bore his friend's name. Bonner had been more than a comrade. He had been a brother in arms, someone Ethan trusted with his life. But now he was gone, a casualty of a war that had cost humanity so much. Ethan's heart ached as he thought back to the moments they had shared. The laughter, the battles, the countless nights spent talking about the future. But in the end, Bonner had paid the ultimate price for that future. He had given his life so that others might live. Ethan's thoughts were interrupted by the distant sounds of the celebration, the cheers of his fellow soldiers and civilians echoing in the air. But despite the world's jubilation, there was a quiet, somber feeling that lingered in Ethan's soul. The victory had come at a great cost. They had defeated the Zoraxians, yes, but the price of that victory was not something that could be measured in blood or gold. It was the loss of friends, the loss of innocence, and the realization that the fight for survival was never truly over. As Ethan stood up from Bonner's grave, he looked out over the devastation. The earth had been torn apart, but it was beginning to heal. The cities that had been bombed and destroyed were slowly being rebuilt, the once smoking ruins now home to the hopeful and determined people who had survived. The streets were filled with workers, soldiers, and civilians alike, all doing their part to restore what had been lost. The battle for the earth was over, but the fight to rebuild was just beginning. The camera panned over the landscape, showing both the destruction and the beginnings of renewal. Where there had once been craters and fires, now there were signs of life. Workers in protective suits, construction crews rebuilding infrastructure, families reuniting. The earth was scared, but it was far from broken. Humanity had endured the worst, and now they were determined to rebuild stronger than before. They had faced the alien threat and had emerged victorious, not because of their advanced technology or superior weapons, but because of their indomitable spirit. As the scene unfolded, the underlying message of the story became clear. Good had triumphed over evil. The Zoraxians had been technologically superior, their ships and weapons far more advanced than anything humanity had ever known. But it was the human spirit that had been their greatest weapon. Despite all odds, despite the overwhelming power of their enemies, humans had fought back with everything they had, refusing to yield. They had fought not just for survival, but for the future of their species, for the freedom to live on their own terms. And in the end, it was that spirit that had proven to be the strongest force in the universe. The battle between good and evil is timeless, and humanity had once again proven that no matter how dire the odds, no matter how powerful the enemy, the light of hope and the strength of the human spirit could overcome even the darkest forces. The victory over the Zoraxians was not just a military victory. It was a victory for all of humanity, a reminder that even in the face of destruction and despair, hope could prevail. As the camera zoomed in on Ethan's face, his eyes tired but resolute, the final line of the story echoed in his mind. We may be small, but we fight like giants. Those words, spoken through gritted teeth in the heat of battle, were more than just a slogan. They were a testament to everything humanity had proven in their fight against the Zoraxians. They were a reminder that even when they seemed outmatched, even when they were faced with an enemy that seemed unstoppable, humanity's strength came not from their size or their weapons, but from their courage, determination, and will to survive. It was a message that would echo throughout history, inspiring future generations to face their own challenges with the same unyielding resolve. And so, as Earth began its slow recovery and humanity looked to the future, one thing was certain: no matter the enemy, no matter the cost, humanity would never stop fighting. The battle had been won, but the war for the survival of the human race would always continue. And as long as there were humans like Ethan willing to fight, the future was one they would protect, no matter what.